Hello and welcome to another Hero Headcannon, or in this case, what I would do. This video is inspired by me watching comic book greats, where Stan Lee basically roasts Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld as they create a new character based solely on the name Stan gave them. Overkill! I'll link that video in the comments down below, as it is something every self-respecting comic book fan needs to see. But one of the main sticking points of the video was Stan kept commenting on basically how in the heck was Overkill supposed to get out of his costume. It made me think about my own characters and what they sometimes wear to fight bad guys and save the day. So today, that's what I will be talking about. Because of course a self-absorbed narcissist like myself just loves talking about themselves ad nauseum, and showing examples of my characters by using artwork done by my good friend SS Trashboat on DeviantArt. Links to her DeviantArt and Patreon will be included down below. Heck, maybe if you are feeling generous, commission her to help me fill out the rest of my universe, and we'll have a massive video talking about every single one of my characters. I know I'll enjoy it, and you'll just suffer along with me. I will start with my main hero, Darkness. He began life as Detective Josh, a character I pretended to be after watching the first Spy Kids film. His costume, powers, personality, and pretty much everything else has undergone many changes since I first created him way back then, but two things have remained constant on every design and new character he has become over the years: the black cowboy hat and domino-like mask that he ties behind his head. Because most of the original Detective Josh stuff was literally just 7-year-old Josh wearing a black cowboy hat and Zorro mask from a Halloween costume. But now, onto his current costume. Not pictured are his pants and shoes. Darkness wears black Converse and black jeans. With his powers of flight, shadow manipulation, telepathy, and ability to communicate with the dead, Darkness doesn't really need a more traditional costume. The only thing that is really traditional superhero about Darkness's outfit is his shirt. Long sleeved and tight like those Under Armour shirts. I was really proud when I had actually designed an actual legit superhero-like chest logo for him. The heart shield really works for his character because while his name is Darkness, I personally refer to him as the Klutz of Kindness, as when Darkness arrives on the scene of a crime, his priority is to try and talk the criminals out of their actions. In fact, in story that I have written, he arrives at a gas station robbery. He reads the mind of the perpetrator and learns that the crook is actually just trying to get food for his family. So what does Darkness do? He literally just buys the would-be criminal some food and instructs him on where some food pantries are. My only regret was that I forgot to inform my artist, SS Trashboat on DeviantArt, that while Darkness does have lenses in his eye covering mask, the lenses, because he needs glasses to see, are actually clear and people can see his brown eyes. I'm proud of the finished product and enjoy the fact that if my characters ever make it big, that fans wishing to cosplay as him will have an overall easy and comfortable time. Next, we will talk about Dusk, because she works with Darkness. kind of makes sense to stay with the same group before moving on to the next group. Her powers are the same as darkness, but instead of telepathy, she has a greater connection to the shadow force, making her shadow manipulation easier, including being able to make shadow warriors to fight for her, and giving her quicker and easier access to enter the shadow dimension. Darkness can enter the shadow dimension as well, but Dusk can navigate through the shadows a lot easier, can bring more people into the dimension with her easier, and use the shadow dimension basically as her own personal storage building, similar to Cloak of Cloak and Dagger fame. As such, her costume is partly inspired by the robes worn by the characters in Bleach and an outer cloak. The only downsides to her costume that I can think of is one, what is her underlayer of clothing supposed to be? For while her abilities allow her to not have to engage in hand to hand combat, as Dusk can literally just spawn shadow creatures to fight for her, or toss villains into the endless shadow dimension void that lurks within her cloak, Dusk is actually an excellent fighter and is trying to train Darkness to better defend himself. I would guess that under the cloak and robes is either a spandex like full body garment or maybe just casual clothing. Two, I do worry about the comfort level if someone tries to cosplay as her. In their story, while Dusk and Darkness live in Texas, the two of them have a connection to the Shadow Force. So while they are wearing black, potentially very warm clothing, they are kept cool just because of their powers alone. I do worry that the outfits, particularly Dusk, might be too warm. If any of you out there cosplay as characters from Bleach, such as Ichigo and Rukia, or other Soul Reapers, be some lambs and let me know in the comments down below if cosplaying as them is uncomfortable. Next, we will talk about my character, Jodie. The thing about Jodie, though, is that while she has the ability to turn into an anthropomorphic version of any mammal, she doesn't have an actual superheroine costume. So she can be a werewolf, were-cheetah, were-bat, the list goes on and on. But she doesn't go seeking out to fight crime. So if she happens upon a purse snatcher, Jodie is most likely to fight crime in the same leotard designed by my usual artist, SS Trashboat on DeviantArt, that she wrestles in, does circus work in, and does street performances in. The reason this is what Jodie wears is because it works best with her fighting style, because Jodie's main traits that she uses aside from her superhuman ability is her acrobatic skills and contortionist ability. Part of designing an outfit for anyone is to make sure that it functions with the character. If you have characters like Spider-Man, Nightwing, or in this case Jodie, who swing around the city and do flips and tricks and literally folding themselves in half, you have to make sure that their costumes are light enough to fold with them, tight enough to not cause much if any drag. Part of the reason her costume shows way more skin compared to male heroes I compared her to stems from her power. She can become an anthropomorphic version of any mammal. Most mammals have fur. So imagine, if you will, a full bodysuit covering a person from at least the neck to the toes. And now imagine that person is also a werewolf. For practicality's sake, more skin, or in this case fur, would have to breathe just so that the character wouldn't overheat. And again, this works as a quasi casual cosplay. wear it to a con by including some fur or other pieces of a mammal-based costume. Me personally, if I did my Catwolf cosplay, I have a werewolf Halloween mask. Might be something to consider if you decide to do a Jodie cosplay. Then, cool off at the pool, or join as a circus acrobat even. If you were curious, Jodie does have more casual street clothes she also wears. It should be on screen now. Basically, a yoga top with matching yoga pants and a cheetah print vest thrown on top. Because superheroes are like us, real people, humans. We have clothes for work, clothes for hanging out, clothes to make us look and feel sexy. I know I have an in game Thor cosplay, and I feel quite fabulous wearing it. And of course, our normal everyday clothes, aka also my Thor cosplay, because let's face it, I have the body of a god now. Now let's move on to Jodie's adoptive Aunt Rose. Rose is a character that lives nearly exclusively in normal clothing, whereas I have at least experimented on actual superhero costumes for Jodie, as at one point in her canon, Jodie was serious about being a superheroine and saving the day in costume and everything. Jodie's adoptive Aunt Rose, from her creation, has never really had a costume. Part of it may have to do with the fact that while she does have a superpower, being that while her skin looks like normal flesh, in reality it's actually metal. Diamond Diamondium, the strongest metal in my universe. But at the same time, she's not an actual superhero. She's a semi retired member of a special forces squad, kind of like a superpowered CIA. I've tried to work on some types of stealth suits and the like, but nothing has really stuck. The only thing that has really stuck for Rose is her casual clothing, with an orange blouse and a green skirt. The only thing that makes her really stand out is that while she has these fairly feminine articles of clothing, she offsets it with combat boots. What I like about the fact that I have never really given Rose an actual costume is that it kind of works with her character. She's strong enough to be herself. Rose is able to have femininity, but still is strong and is ready to be rough and tumble. Lastly, I'm going to talk about my character Lightning. Of all the characters I'm talking about, Lightning has the most traditional superheroine costume that I will be talking about today. But even in her canon, it didn't start out that way. After an experimental centrifuge goes awry, because, of course, science going crazy in superhero stories always equals powers, and not like either death or absolute nothingness like it does in the real world. Anyway, the experiment goes bad, and suddenly Diana Pierce is suddenly the fastest woman alive. So, what does this girl who normally spends most of her free time designing cosplays for others decide to wear to fight crime? Basically, the yellow hoodie and black pants she happened to be wearing when the accident happened. Because in her mind, they had to have been altered in the same way the rest of her was altered, right? Right? Well, yes. Yes, they were actually. Because in comics, that is how science works. But that is okay because once her scientist friend that got her involved in the accident in the first place analyzes the fibers and is able to make material that operates the exact same way. So a few minutes later, boom! An actual costume worthy of any heroic lineup. Anyway, gang, this has been a what I would do for superhero costumes. And mostly I focus on making sure that if anyone decided to actually wear these in real life, that one, they would change into them easily, and two, once they are in costume, they aren't trying to explode themselves to hurry up and get out of them. What would you guys do to make a superhero costume? Would you like me to talk more about my other heroes and their costumes? Let me know in the comments down below. For Hero Headcannon, I'm Josh Redburn. See you later.